Good morning. If we could get everybody to take their seats, please, so we can get started. I'm so happy to see everybody, and everybody is so happy, and they're ready to be here. I see people moving furniture. At this time, I want to get the program started, and I'm going to turn it over to Professor Sarah DeCalogero, who is the Faculty Senate Chair.
Good morning. Oh, we can do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, thank you. Who's excited? Okay. Looking for a great year this year, right? I even have my oldest going to college tomorrow, so it's a totally different type of first-year experience for me going on. I'm Sarah DeCalogero, Chair of the College Faculty Senate, and I'm pleased and honored to welcome you to TCC's Fall 2023 Convocation. Thank you for being here. This year's Convocation theme is Ignite, Innovate, and Inspire. What a great way to start the 2023 to 2024 academic year. We'll start today's program with a special address from Dr. Sandy Shugart, former president of Valencia College in Orlando, Florida. Earlier this week, TCC's vice president shared college reports with administrators from your departments. To save time today, you may view the presentations online by visiting tcc.edu's faculty and staff page. Today, following a 15-minute break, we will receive a few strategic college reports, beginning with VP Kurt Asen, after which we'll have our yearly special recognition and awards. So to begin, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Marcia Constant, President of Tidewater Community College.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, you can do better than that. Good morning, everyone. Let's hear some cheers and happy to be here. And yeah, that's what we need to hear this morning. So thank you all so much for coming out. And I was worried at 6 and 6:30 a.m. this morning because it was thundering in my side of town. And I was hoping that it would not deter our attendance this morning. So thank all of you for being here. I want to acknowledge everyone in the room for all the great things that you do throughout our year and how you're serving our students to make a difference in their lives as well as in the lives of the people we serve throughout Hampton Roads. TCC is doing phenomenal things in our region, and it is only because of the great work that each of you do every day. Your presence in our communities and in the lives of our students is making a tremendous difference. And I also want to say that I am very excited this year because we are seeing more and more of our students in person. More students are coming back to our campuses, utilizing our services in the library, our student centers, et cetera. So your presence continues to be even more important every day as we show up to serve our students. And as we get started with our program this morning, I want to acknowledge Dr. Michelle Woodhouse and team for the great job that she does and everyone does to make our convocations so successful. So let's acknowledge Dr. Woodhouse, our Vice President for our Vice President for Academic Affairs and Chief Academic Officer for the great job that she does. And I also want to acknowledge our TCC College Board members. We have several members here with us this morning. Our board chair, Ms. Lynn Clements, Mr. Andy Tysinger, We have Matthew Stakes, who is our new board member, so I need a little bit of grace here, who is representing from Virginia Beach, Dr. Kurt Houston, who's also here, and Mr. Jerome Bynum. So welcome, guys. Thank you all for your support and everything that you do every day. And as Sarah mentioned earlier this week, the vice presidents presented some college updates at our administrators meeting. So I would just like to take a moment to ask our vice presidents, cabinet members to please stand and be recognized. So I won't call their names. I think everybody knows everybody at this point, but I will tell you that we could not move this college forward without the great leadership of this wonderful team that we have in place serving as president cabinet members. And I would also like to recognize Dr. Kim Bove. Kim, would you please stand? She does not like this, but I will say to everyone who has the opportunity to work with Kim, she does a phenomenal job with our strategic planning process, as well as our SAC-COC accrediting business. So thank you, Kim, for the great work that you do, and all of the others in the room who lend your hands and hearts to move this school forward every day. Thank you so much. I have the awesome privilege this morning of introducing our guest speaker. And I will tell you that I am super, super, super excited that he is with us this morning. I'm going to read a little bit of Dr. Sandy Shugart's bio, but this bio tells just a little bit about the vast amount of work that he has done to move community colleges forward in our country and perhaps internationally. Sandy, I met him many years ago. His school, Valencia College, was a part of the top 20 community colleges in the country, the League for Innovation. And some of you have heard me talk about the League for Innovation. And Dr. Shugart's school was at the absolute top of the list, Valencia College, doing great things under his leadership. I literally used to just stand back or sit back and listen to some of the things that he said about how he was demonstrating leadership to move Valencia College forward. And we know that Valencia College today is an outstanding community college, but it started right here with this gentleman who served there over 20 years as president. So I'll read a little bit about him. Our guest speaker this morning is Dr. Sandy Shugart, Senior Fellow at the Aspen Institute and former president of Valencia College in Orlando, Florida. Dr. Shugart has served 40 years in higher education and 30 as a college president. He has also served as a chairman of a major healthcare system, as a visiting scholar at Oxford University, and on the boards of numerous organizations. He was recognized by Washington Monthly as, listen to this, one of the 10 most innovative college presidents in America, and received the prestigious McGraw Prize for Higher Education Innovation. And you all know how much I love that word, innovation. Dr. Shugart is a published poet, a songwriter, a performer, and the author of Leadership in the Cubicle of Work, Discovering the Interior Life of an Authentic Leader. He and his wife, Jane, have 4 grown children and live near Winston-Salem, North Carolina. TCC family, please join me in welcoming Dr. Shugart.
Sometimes, if you walk carefully through the forest, breathing like the ones in the old stories, who could cross a shimmering bed of dry leaves without a sound, you come to a place whose only purpose is to trouble you with tiny but frightening requests. Coming from nowhere, but in this place leading everywhere. Requests to stop what you are doing right now and to stop who you are becoming while you do it. Questions that have waited patiently for you. Questions that can make or unmake a life. Questions that have no right to go away. Those words, penned by a writing partner and friend and marvelous poet named David White, have been a touchstone for me for 40 years. And often, just in my personal life, to be self-aware, to face the questions, to be still long enough to know where you are, to let the forest find you, he would say. I think it's also true in our collective life, in our work life, in our organizational life. It always felt odd to me to gather everyone together at the very moment when they are busiest. And everything feels like a wave building out there that's going to crash on you. And you're doing your very best to be ready that first day. It always seemed odd that we would gather just then. But I think David would say it's precisely when you need to get your head above the water long enough to situate yourself in the world again. And the way we do that isn't with answers, it's with questions. So I want to raise a few questions for you today. Just a few. And I want to warn you that in my work helping institutions improve, I've learned to mix a cocktail. One that they will drink and that will have an impact. And it's 1 part despair and 3 parts hope. So there will be some bad news early in the conversation, but mostly good news later. So here we are, beginning to find what normal is again. It's not like the old normal. It's a new normal. And we're trying to figure out how we work with this. Where do I need to be? How are they going to access us and we, they? How do we do our work differently? We're tempted to think this is all really an outcome of the pandemic, but the truth is things began to shift rather dramatically around 2010. Something in the value proposition of America began to lose traction sometime around 2010, near the end of the Great Recession, as we call it. And again, the temptation is to name a cause. We like to do that, but as psychiatrists would say, everything is overdetermined. That means there's 1,000 causes for every human behavior. And I think we're in that complex a situation. The symptoms are easy enough to trace. Community college enrollment declined across the country rather significantly for a decade. Some are turning it around. Not all experienced it, but most did. Same thing is true of most open access institutions at the 4-year level, to a slightly different degree. We know something's going on. And because it feels like a storm that we've been through, we need to think in that metaphor a little bit and say, look, in the middle of the storm, you're just worried about the waves coming over the gunnels. And you sort of navigate the waves. But you lose your way when you do that. And the first thing you do when the storm begins to subside is figure out where the heck you are. What point on the horizon are you sailing to now? It's about orienting yourself personally and corporately in the post-storm environment. And to do that, you have to ask questions, both internal questions about who you are now, but also external questions, particularly if you're a mission-oriented organization. Because who you are and how you're situated in the world is mostly about mission, not survival. And if it ever becomes just survival, then maybe you don't deserve to. So I want to press a few questions. And I want to start with a story. It's the story of us. I want to start in the middle of the story. Around about the year 2000, about 2 decades ago, America began to wake up to the possibilities of its community colleges. It was a heady time for me. I had labored almost 20 years already in the community college work and felt the frustrations we all feel of working kind of beneath the surface. The last ones mentioned, particularly in the budget. The last ones regarded. The lowest on the totem pole. The worst funded, and so on. That's frustrating. But I was where I wanted to be. I knew this is the population I wanted to serve. These are the people I cared about. I even had a call in the middle of all that frustration from an elite, expensive private college in Orlando. There's only one, so I don't need to name it. And they were all over me to come be their president. Oh, it's a 6-figure, 7-figure salary, a house, servants, blah blah blah. So well, you if nothing else talked me out of it, that does. And they really pressed hard. And finally, I told the headhunter, I said, "I'm not your guy." And she said, "Why?" I said, "To be fair, somebody in this world needs to care about the entitled children of the privileged, wealthy class, but not me." Right? I knew, sorry. I knew where I was in life. I knew what work I wanted to do, but it didn't make the environment any less frustrating. And then the country started waking up. We've got this unique thing. Nobody else in the world has community colleges like we do. Open access, belief in everyone, a real chance. And they could be and they used language like this, they could be our secret weapon. This could be the pipeline, the talent pipeline. Interesting language. If only, and you know what the if only is, right? If only anybody graduated. That was the conversation. If we could just get better outcomes, this could be the most powerful instrument for economic mobility, genuine opportunity, real justice, if only. And in that moment, the completion agenda was born. You remember that conversation? College completion agenda? You see, for the first 40 years of our existence, we were all about access. Access was everything. Give them a chance. Let them in. Everybody. It was a brilliant idea, a remarkable idea, more remarkable than the founders knew. Unfortunately, when you engineer for access, when you build the deep DNA of the institution around access, it has unintended consequences. One is that growth becomes your God. Another is that students become not human beings, but units of revenue. And we become obsessed with enrollment. The God of community college for 40 years was enrollment. And it's not entirely debunked yet because it's so deep in the DNA. It's the way we're funded. It's the way we test our health. It's the way we gather our best data. It's the way we talk about our students. FTE. Is that the Virginia term for it? FTE. And no matter how much we talk about teaching and learning and success, deep down inside, there's always this skeptical voice that says, right, until FTE is on the line. And there's a sad consequence for this in the students. You see, if you treat them long enough and authoritatively enough as FTE, they'll behave like that. They do what we train them to do. And they become customers. Was there ever a more impoverished metaphor for a student than a customer? They're partners in learning. They're human beings. They bring whole lives to us, their own trajectories and aspirations, their own destinies, and all of their own flaws. They're human beings. FTE is a terrible way of thinking about them, isn't it? Now, enrollment's not unimportant. It's a business outcome. It's the price of our future. It's the way we have to finance the future. But a business outcome for a mission servant organization is not worthy. We always had two lists of things we had to get done at Valencia. The really important list is, here are the mission outcomes we're going to achieve. And then the little list that only a handful of us worried about most of the time, we called business imperatives. And they were things that we said, if we're going to achieve those missions, we need to be able to have the capacity to do that. And here are the business outcomes we've got to get to do that. But we're not going to make that everybody's job. Mission is everybody's job. And keeping those in order is always a challenge. It's a challenge in healthcare. It's a challenge in all of education, top to bottom. It's a challenge in all of our institutions that are servant institutions, to keep them alive to their servant ethic and not consumed by their business imperatives, right? And we spent 40 years doing that. By the way, we're not the only ones. I gave a talk like this years ago in Canada about persons in our colleges. And someone came up to me afterwards and said, thanks for saying all that about FTE. It's true, but it's worse in Canada. I said, why? She says, we don't call them full-time equivalents. I said, what do you call them? She said, funding units. FUs. So you can see when the notion of completion sort of came to fruition in the early 2000s, when people said, what if we could get, is this the best our students can do? What if we could get serious improvements in student outcomes? What if we got most students to complete what they started? Wouldn't that be an awesome thing? And for the next 15 years, we worked like dogs and invented all sorts of new things and challenged the deep architecture of our institutions. That's still going on. Not everybody's done it, but it's heady work. At Valencia, we moved graduation, we tripled graduation rates. That can happen is absurd. Tells you how low they were to begin with. But still across the country, graduation rates on average are in the teens. We're at about graduation and transfer at about 60% for all students. Just pure graduation at about 49%. Where are you? That's good news. That's good news. You're going to share that later? Good. That's awesome. So completion's vitally important. And you know the things that were done. Guided pathways, required learning support. A good focus on teaching and learning and continuing to develop our craft across the whole arc of our careers. Discovering and applying the more powerful pedagogies that we know work with adults of all kinds. First-year success programs. Commitment to really honest discussion of the real data without manipulating the denominators and without relying on anecdote as our primary source of evidence. All those sorts of things begin to be implemented, and many institutions move the needle pretty dramatically. And things like the Aspen Prize and Achieving the Dream, and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars invested by major foundations in community colleges for the first time. Those were the markers that something really important was happening. And that all kind of coalesced under this general notion of student success. How do we build, engineer, design in the success of our students into the way that we do everything? And by the way, you probably are pretty far along in that work. You may have dipped your toe, you may have taken the plunge into the heady waters of student success. The work never quite ends, and there's always more to do. And I can show you examples of extraordinary outcomes in places whose students are at least as challenged, perhaps more than yours, in places like Amarillo, Texas, or far southwest Texas, or parts of urban community college districts in Florida and California. Remarkable work. And scary work, like converting almost every course into 8 weeks and getting a 40 percentage point lift in student success as a result. We're not talking about 2 and 3 percentage points improvements. We're talking about dramatic outcomes for the students. But it's deep work. But a decade or decade and a half into this work, even with the most daring institutions showing these extraordinary new results, the conversation jumped to a new level. And the questions got larger, more important, and more human. While the public's trust in higher education began to drop dramatically, and it was no longer true to them what we had to say in our marketing. There's a pretty deep distrust, particularly among younger people, of all institutions. And frankly, they don't believe our messaging. They believe something about us, but it's not what we believe about ourselves or what we tell them. All of that began to come into question. The notion of higher education as a public good rather than a private good came into question. And serious questions about the level of investment, both in tuition and fees and state and federal investments. This, by the way, preceded really the intensification of the culture wars. It's not a result of the culture wars. It came ahead of the culture wars. Culture wars, I think, exacerbate the conversation. It makes it hard to have. While all that's going on, then, this is the question that I think is at the root of it, and it's being asked very directly. The value proposition of higher education, public higher education especially, but all higher education in America is, this is the American dream. An education is the road to future prosperity for you and your family. The opportunity is there for everyone. Start here, go anywhere. That's been the promise. How true is it? Well, turns out it's not as true as we would like. Let me just share, I promise not to bore you with too much in statistics here, but let me share some data that I think is really demonstrative. And I'll tell you ahead of time, here's what the data shows. And this is data on the whole of the higher education ecosystem in America. Private and public, 4-year graduate, 2-year, high access, low access, selective. This is the whole thing. Here's what they found. The data really describe a system that is rife with elitism and inequality. It's oriented to privilege, and it creates extreme differences in resourcing across the systems that is irrational. By the way, we've lived with this last observation our whole lives, haven't we? Here's just some stats on that piece. Community colleges, in fact, open access institutions, even the title community college doesn't work very well anymore because many of us, a fifth of the colleges now offer bachelor's degrees and are treated differently in the Carnegie classification system. So let's just say open access colleges. We serve 55% of all public students. We get half the resources per student from the state than the selective publics do. They educate 21%. There's a pecking order. We understand how that works in the political system. This, of course, is something we pay for pretty heavily. We pay for it in restricted, rationed services. We pay for it in workloads. We pay for it in heavy dependence on people who would like to be here full-time and can't be. We pay for that. We didn't create it. We're living it because that's the way the system's been designed. We're not the only ones that pay for it. Gordon Winston is an economist who's done this analysis that shows that students at selective schools are paying roughly 20 cents for every education dollar spent on them. A fifth of their cost is out of pocket. At open access schools, 80 cents on the dollar comes from tuition. The least affluent students are asked to put the largest investment. It's a regressive tax. And access to the better funded sectors is very, very unequal. 60% of all seats in the most selective colleges go to students from the most affluent families. Of these, 46% would not have been admitted if they'd been required to meet a minimum SAT score of 1250, which, by the way, is below the minimum for most of those institutions. This, by the way, is a part of the discussion about legacy admissions right now. This is who they're talking about. Only 5% of students in the top 500 colleges come from the bottom quartile of income. 5%. Striving students, we know who they are. That's who we love. Striving students, those are students from low socioeconomic backgrounds, but with above average SAT scores. They have a 30% chance of ever earning a bachelor's degree in America. Advantaged students with the same SAT scores have a 70% chance of graduating with a bachelor's degree. This is the despair part of the cocktail. The promise, broadly stated, isn't true yet. 8 years out of high school, 61% of students from the top quartile of income have earned a bachelor's degree or more. 14% of the students in the bottom quartile have earned a bachelor's degree. I don't think America thrives when our language of opportunity is so undermined by the measures of reality. Almost 70% of the growth in earnings gap, by the way, since the 1980s, is due to differences in access to and completion of a college degree. So there's a conversation in America now that says, well, maybe the degree doesn't really matter that much. We'll do skills-based hiring, we'll do this, we'll do that. Let me be clear about this. The data are really very clear. There is an opportunity to build streamlined training programs that put people in good jobs in some regions. You're in one. You have a remarkable opportunity to concentrate education to reduce the opportunity cost to students. They will not go to school for 5 years or 6 years or 7 years on a part-time basis and graduate in any numbers. They don't. You got to find ways to turn access to good paying jobs into weeks-long training or months, and build ladders if you can. That takes a partnership approach with employers, which you're already engaged in. But the value proposition to the students is upside down, the way we used to do things. I used to tell the story this way in Orlando. You could go down any day of the week to Church's Chicken on Church Street in western Orlando, and there'd be 100, 150 young men hanging around in the parking lot waiting for someone to drive by in a pickup truck and say, I need 5. And 5 young men would find a way to sort themselves into the truck, and they drive off and do day labor. And they might or might not get paid. What's our value proposition to that young man? Well, we could go out and say, we can help you out of this. Our community college, Valencia, is an awesome college. We're going to help you. First, you're going to go back to school. Now, I know you hated it, and they hated you. But we're going to go back to school, and we're going to get you a high school diploma. And then you're going to go to school some more, probably part-time. And in 5 or 6 years, if you don't screw up, does that sound like a value proposition someone would take you up on? That's the design of our programs. We designed programs to move working class people into better jobs as though they were affluent children. Won't work anymore. Today, you can go to that same guy from Valencia, you bet you can do this too, and look him in the eye and say, hey, did you ever want to drive a bulldozer? By the way, no one ever says no to that. 9 weeks. 9 weeks. Manufacturing technology. There are 11 programs. They're stackable. You finish the first one in 5 weeks, and you're working. And then the employer pays the tuition for the next level and the next level and the next level. It's a whole different model. What does all this inequality talk mean? It means we have an incredible responsibility and an incredible opportunity. If we can get completion, no matter how long the program is, to levels that matter, then we also have a chance to look beyond completion. This is what my friend Josh Weiner calls Community College 3.0. 1.0 is access, 2.0 is completion, 3.0 is post-completion outcomes in lingo. It means, has the life changed? Is anybody moving from one socioeconomic level to another? Are people who start here really going anywhere? You can ask that question with different inflection, can't you? Here's the conclusion. This is a direct quote from a wonderful book called The Merit Myth that came out of Georgetown University just a few years ago. I just want to read this 2 quotes to you. I read these, by the way, to the board of the American Council on Education when they were talking about transfer, and I was not invited back. Our higher education system increasingly functions as a passive agent in the systematic reproduction of racial and class privilege across generations. I can't imagine a more damning comment. We've created access, but, again, direct quote, paradoxically, rising access to our post-secondary system has benefited all subsets of the population, while also sustaining or even increasing the economic distance between them. I used to get mad when I read the early analysis of the community college work from the 60s and 70s, where the radical theorists were arguing this is not a legitimate educational enterprise, it's a chilling out function. We're putting the poor in a place where they won't complain. It made me mad. Art Levine at UCLA, you remember that? Turns out Art's kind of right. That's despair. You feel it? You should. But there's hope. Let me tell you about the hope. I have never been so hopeful. And I get this hope from 4 or 5 different places. If we're ever, as a country, going to achieve real economic opportunity for people, the community colleges are going to be the linchpin. That's not rhetoric anymore. That's not preaching to the choir. This is an economic fact. This is where the poor go to college. Nowhere else in numbers that matter. And under-indexing and all those other conversations are a smokescreen. And I may get in trouble for saying this, because there are a lot of opinions about affirmative action. But my good friend who spent his whole career as a senior leader and president of HBCUs tells me, don't mourn affirmative action in higher ed. It was always a fig leaf. To hide the real discrimination. I don't know that it was intended that way, but it's certainly up for grabs what it means now. But it's gone. If people are going to have the benefits of the education system who don't have it now, whose families are multi-generational, not necessarily in the bottom quintile, but middle to lower incomes, where are they going to get it? Here. And that's not the way we've been designed. So we've got work to do. But we can do it. And let me tell you why I'm hopeful. If we're going to be successful, if America's promise is going to come true, finally, I think it can. 2 or 3 things have to happen. First is the students have to enroll. We have a short-term problem there, don't we? We have a missing generation. They have to succeed, which means they have to learn. Let me say this as clearly as I can. There are all sorts of reasons why students don't complete their degrees. The most important one, the one that matters most, the one that's most easily influenced, the one that we have the most control over, is whether they learn or not. If they don't learn, they don't complete. Half the country has this backwards. They think completion is a good thing. Completion's a good thing because if more students completed, that means they will have learned something. It's the other way around. The road to completion runs through learning. Faculty, raise your hands. Raise your hands. Your job, job 1. It's your job. Finding a way to partner with students. They have to learn. Here's the good news. They can. They can. They can. My background is in learning science. I used to give speeches. I used to kill people with PowerPoints. You know what I mean? Death by PowerPoint. It took me years to figure out that PowerPoint was fine, except that it was powerless and pointless. And I was doing a talk in Texas. Some of you heard me tell this story before. Doing a talk in Texas, and the theme of the talk was, anyone can learn anything. And I was using learning science to demonstrate this. Trust me, it's true. Unless you are damaged, and a precious few are, there's nothing you can't learn under the right conditions. It's all about the conditions. And even the damaged will surprise you. Anyone can learn anything. Do you believe that? You don't believe that. You're lying to me. Look at me. How many of you, look me in the eye so I can tell whether you're lying or not. How many of you at some point in your life have said, I'm no good at math? Like you've got a defective brain. There's no quantitative reasoning neurons in there. How many of you have thought, I wish I'd learned a foreign language when I was young? Too late for me. That part of my brain turned to concrete. Okay? These mythologies are not true. What's true is that if you create the right conditions, anyone can learn anything. I gave that talk in Texas, and a teacher came up to me afterwards and said, thank you for that. I really like that idea. And I think it's true in most disciplines. I said, what is it you teach, ma'am? She said, oh, I teach German. German's hard. It's a strange language, kind of non-intuitive, weird syntax. They invent words by sticking words together. It's hard, German. And I can tell you, after teaching for 15 years, there are some people who just can't learn German. I said, well, how fortunate for them. They weren't born in Germany. You see, She looked at me puzzled. I said, you see, the issue is that pretty much 100% of Germans master German. Do you think that's genetic? There's like a Deutsche gene? She's still looking at me puzzled. I said, look, I can take any of your worst students, drop them in Kitzbühel, Austria, with 100 euros and say, I'll be back in 6 weeks. When I pick them up, they're speaking German. Because the conditions for learning German happen to be exceptionally good in Germany and Austria. Math faculty, raise your hands. Isn't math a language? It's a language. And half of the breakthrough your students have when they finally start learning math is they crack the code. You help them to crack the code. How many times have you had to walk a student through and say, X doesn't mean anything, it's a variable. It's a variable. If you put blank there, it means the same thing. It's just cracking the code, right? In calculus, it's just, here's how lots of little differences add up to big differences. It's that simple, right? These ideas aren't really that hard. It's the code. Anyone can learn anything under the right conditions. When you start to believe that as a faculty, your conversation changes from what's wrong with the students to how do we create the right conditions. Now here's the hook. They control a lot of the conditions, like showing up, reading the text, doing the work. So our job is complicated by the human factor, which is how do I get my students to partner with me to create the best conditions for each of their learning? How do I do that? That's what the craft is really about. And it ain't easy, but it's doable. And we've seen student learning grow dramatically in the places that take that seriously. And success rates in things like intermediate and college algebra that hover around 40 to 50% at most colleges in the country move to 70 and 75%. When we spent several years working really hard on the conditions of learning. The students can learn it. And we have wonderful examples of how that level of learning cascades into outcomes that you can be really proud of. Places like San Antonio College, where graduation rates went from 29% to 48% in 4 years. That's a pretty dramatic move. Like Odessa College, far west Texas. It doesn't get any poorer out there. Even the snakes are poor. This is poor country. It's oil country. That's the Permian Basin. And the wealthy people in the oil patch don't live in Odessa. The working people do. And they were able to move their graduation rates to the highest I've seen anywhere in a college of any size, community college, and had record enrollment every year when everybody else was declining. By the way, they understood that it's the student experience that matters, and this is the second reason I'm hopeful. First is the students can do this if we know how to work with them. The second is it's all about the student experience, and the colleges are waking up to this. Now, we've always said we're student-centered, we're student-centered. What we meant by that was we're nice to students. What we mean now is we understand in great detail what students experience, how they experience us, not how we experience them. Okay? Because the college is what the students experience, period. It's the only definition that counts. Everything else is about creating that experience. And people are waking up to this. We're collecting data differently. We're asking questions differently. The conversations are better informed. It used to be, an IR report was an enrollment report. Now we're getting deep analysis of transcripts. We're understanding what the predictors of success are. We're using predictive analytics to choose where to invest our energy that'll have a greater lift on what the students experience. And we find out really interesting things. For example, this may not be true here. At Valencia, when I asked the question, what's the best predictor of student graduation? The answer was, after quite a bit of work, success on first attempt in the first 5 courses. Success on first attempt in the first 5 classes. If you took 5, it didn't matter what the classes were, you took 5 classes and succeeded in them, that is, you made an A or a B or a C. A D is not a success. Obviously an F isn't, and an I is a pregnant F. You made an A or a B or a C, then your chance of graduating was 62%. If you withdrew from one class, it dropped to 32%. One of the first 5. If you withdrew or made an F in 2 of the first 5, 16% graduation rate. And it's too small to measure if you withdraw or fail in 3 of the first 5. It's all up front. Our working theory was early success will cascade through academic momentum into graduation. And we tested it and tested it. It worked. It worked. We didn't have to change all 3,000 classes to get great results. We had to change what students experienced in 20 classes. It's 40% of the enrollment, by the way, are in 20 classes. I didn't have to make all textbooks free. I just had to find a way to make them free in 20 classes. I didn't have to provide tutoring to every course imaginable or supplemental instruction to every course imaginable. Just, 20 or 30. The scale of the problem gets manageable. But the core of this is understanding that we're working to engineer a student experience that leads to their success, to learning and completion, and then post-completion outcomes. Third reason I'm very hopeful is that the country is starting to think less institutionally and more ecosystem. Now, this is going to take some time for us to manage, but and the reason is there's hardly any kind of institution in the world that's more self-absorbed than a college or a university. We are certain that we're the best. Now, I'm in the community college world partly because we're not entirely subject to that sin. My alma mater is, oh my God, I went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. It's kind of like University of Virginia. Absolutely certain that they are morally, spiritually, and intellectually at the tip top of everything. Only after your daughter arrives will they be there. Yeah. It's deeply self-absorbed. But students don't experience us the way we experience that institutional ego. For one thing, they swirl among many institutions, much more than we imagine. They're back and forth and up and down, and they have these shoebox fulls of transcripts, and sometimes they can locate them and sometimes they can't, and sometimes they don't want to. It can be very complicated. More importantly, access to the pathways that lead to their destinies are rarely found in a single institution. And so people are starting to think it's not important how highly ranked your institution is. What's important is how well does your regional ecosystem serve the people you are designed to serve. That means things like transfer networks, which you have a pretty good one, I think. It's my impression. I would press hard on some of the details in it, but your backbone is solid. So, here's what solid means. Solid means really good articulation agreements in place, because you can't have good transfer if credit doesn't transfer. But credit transfer isn't the ecosystem. It's humans who are transferring. So if you dig into the student experience of transfer, not the credit, not the transcripts experience, that's a piece of it. How are they treated? How awful is it to go through that process? How misdirected are they? How many earn an associate's degree before transferring? There's a critical question. There's a 22% lift in bachelor's degree completion for students who have an Associate of Arts degree versus those who have 60 hours of credit but no degree. That's a pretty big lift. But people are thinking this way. In our environment, we built a data collaborative where student unit record data from pre-K to graduate school lives in one data lake operated by the college, the universities, and the public schools. We can see every student in real time, wherever they are, every test score, every course grade, and we can use predictive analytics to figure out where are the holes in this system. Who's succeeding where and why? That's power. That's across the ecosystem, because it's in the transitions from institution to institution that so many students get lost. Ecosystem thinking gives me great hope. This works in workforce too. I spent far too much of my career interacting with employers who thought it was their job to place an order for talent, for labor, and it was my job to fulfill it. They send me a chit, I need 11 welders. I'm supposed to send them 11 welders, a few weeks later. This has never worked, and it never will work, because students aren't a commodity. And I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings, because this is language we use sometimes without thinking about it. We're not a pipeline. We are not a pipeline, because students are neither raw materials nor a product. They are human beings moving towards their own purposes and destinies. And we're there to serve them, not to serve them up. And right now, that's all right. Right now, there's a conversation going on in America that not many people have unpacked, and that is, where are all the workers? I tell you where they are. The workers are fed up. The value proposition is empty. We spent 40 years hollowing out the relationship between employer and employee. We have the largest contingent workforce in the world. No benefits, part-time, no guaranteed of continued employment. 30% of the people with part-time employment have that employment interrupted for 3 months or more every year, in any given year, involuntarily. That's when they end up living in their car. It's broken. And people are just choosing not to participate. The solution to this is a new kind of partnership between those who develop talent and those who engage talent, so that we're involved in engaging them and they're involved in developing them just as much as the other way around. That is, real partnerships with employers, an ecosystem in the labor market, and building out things like your own Skilled Trades Institute is a move in that direction, if the partnerships are wholesome. You have a new one that have you announced the July partnership with Amazon? Has that been done? It's been announced, so I can talk about it? Okay, good. Okay. That's a great example. These things, you have a new partnership with Amazon where most of their employees can come take pretty much any course here they want to take. Leads to a credential. It's not governed by some HR office that says, oh, you must take this but not that, and you can't follow your heart. You have to do what we say is valuable to us, and so on. No, they understand that the value proposition of the employer is retention of their employees while they're engaged in their education, and the value proposition to the employee is you get to pursue a dream that might take you beyond here. Now that's a balanced partnership. We do it at Disney. We have thousands of students who are hourly workers at Disney who can take any course they want at Valencia, and we master build the company. Thousands. They were sure they were all going to go to University of Florida and get an MBA. Turns out that the largest enrollment is in English as a second language. Isn't that interesting? One more reason for hope and a caution, and then I'll wrap. There is no place in the world, I know, where the servant ethic and the realization of the humanity behind what we do is more alive than in the American Community College. This is personal. I believe that the great challenge to all of our institutions in this century, and by the way, our institutions aren't that old. You know, huge institutions other than government, warfare, and church were mostly invented since the middle of the 19th century. Most of them, particularly the servant institutions. Hospitals, schools, colleges, universities, if they weren't invented in the last 150 years, they were scaled and perfected. They're an amazing technology, maybe the most important technology of the last couple hundred years. Big organizations, bureaucracies, they're awesome, and they're awful, aren't they? Because organizations will behave like organisms sometimes. Over time, they do what they think they have to do to survive, even at the expense of the people they were created to serve. Happens all the time. When was the last time you were in the emergency room? Blood everywhere, coughing, can't get your breath. What do they want? Your insurance card. Why does that happen? It shouldn't happen. Probably doesn't happen much anymore. Used to happen all the time. Why did that happen? Is it because that little lady that sits at the front desk at the ER is evil? She's an evil person. No. The nurses and doctors, they're money-grubbing, hateful people. They like suffering. No. It's the executives and the board of directors of the hospital. They are thieves. No. None of that's true. They're just like you and me. But the organization behaves like an organism. It's the mission of servant leaders, by the way. We talk about servant leadership as, sort of lionizing the leader. What's way more important is the purpose of servant leadership, which is to enter these great servant institutions and redeem them to their purpose, their servant ethic, and remind them that you can't justify harming the people you were designed to serve on the basis of your own survival. You can't do that. You can't say things like, yeah, I'm sure I ought to do this for you, and I could, but if I did it for you, then I'd have to do it for everybody. Ever hear that? That's institutional sin. That's unethical. This needs examination. But no place are we more in touch that these are human beings than right here. We know this. We love them. We care about them. We're willing to do what it takes Valencia gets a lot of attention, and I get way too much credit. Let me tell you something about Valencia. When I got there in January of 2000, the work was already underway, and it was started by a skunk works of faculty and staff who got together without the president's knowledge and said, is this the best our students can do? We think they can do better. What would it take for them to do better? And all the innovation that's come out of that institution had its genesis in that skunk works. When I got there, all I had to do was recognize these are the people asking the right questions. I think I'll put them in charge. Ask the right questions. Sometimes, if you walk carefully through the forest, breathing like the ones in the old stories who could cross a shimmering bed of dry leaves without a sound, you come to a place whose only purpose is to trouble you with tiny but frightening requests, coming from nowhere, but in this place leading everywhere. Requests to stop what you are doing right now and to stop who you are becoming while you do it. Questions that have waited patiently for you. Questions that can make or unmake a life. Questions that have no right to go away. Thank you.
I told y'all he was great. He's outstanding. So I think this is the gift for you, Dr. Shugart. We appreciate you so much. And Dr. Shugart will stick around for a conversation a little bit later this morning, so we're excited to hear from him again. Thank you so much. And indeed, we are here to serve our students and not serve them up. That was so powerful. Thank you so very much. We're going to take a 10-minute break now, and after that time, we'll convene again and hear a little bit about some of the college updates.
Welcome back, everybody. Can I get a good morning? Can I get another good morning? Are we excited to be back? Hoorah. All right, so we need to get started. So I'm hopeful those of you who are still chatting and standing can just take it down a little bit. Thank you. So welcome back from break, everyone. At this time, I would like to welcome Vice President for Information Systems and Institutional Effectiveness, Kurt Asen.
It is what it is. It gives me a couple of seconds, and if Dr. Constant will indulge me for 60 seconds, I cannot come up here after Sandy and just start talking about funding units. I just can't. So I want to just very quickly, in 2006, our IPED's 150% graduation rate, that's 3-year period tracking, was 8.6%. And that's what it had been about through the 90s and in the early 2000s. Our last measure was 28%. So that's increased by 3 times. And there's been a lot of strategies that we've put in place over these years. Everything we've tried supplemental instruction, we've had success with that in our English composition course, to many other strategies. Some work, some don't. Some worked on the small scale and were not scalable, others were. But another metric, when we look at our 4-year, what we call our advancement rate, so instead of 3 years, we look at 4 years, we take those graduates and then those that transfer out, it takes it up to 48% over a 4-year period. If we look at the National Student Clearinghouse 6-year completion rate, it is only at about 41%. You add in those that are still enrolled, takes it up to 55%. But the interesting point when you made about part-time students, if you look at just those students that enrolled throughout till completion, primarily full-time, they're completing at a rate of 67%. And what brings it down are those part-time students, where it's much lower. And we also have 2 metrics that we use, very similar to the 5-course thing that Dr. Bovey and I, when we were going around a couple of years ago, 100 presentations, were trying to get traction with, is what we call Progress 12 and Progress 24. And when I was working on the VCCS Metrics Committee, we saw that students that completed within the first 2 semesters 12 credits successfully, A, B, or C, and also maintained overall a 2-point GPA, were far more apt to complete within a reasonable amount of time. And then the Progress 24 takes that out a couple more semesters. And so we do try to get traction on those and keep them in the forefront of what we're doing. With that, let me go to just a quick update on our summer enrollment. It was mixed. Compared to last summer, we were down in a little bit in FTE, a little bit up in head count overall. When we look at some key metrics there, first time in college students, you've heard me talk about them a lot. They play a lot into our performance funding. But we don't normally get many first time in college students in the summer session. But we saw a nice 12% increase there. Part of that is because of the success of the LEAP program that we introduced. This is the 3rd summer we've done it, and it shows a lot of promise in helping students move forward. And Dr. Woodhouse and Dr. Campbell, a lot of credit there. Some may say, well, the increase in dual enrollment students makes us look positive in head count. If we just take the dual enrollment students out, we were about, in head count, about the same as we were last summer. I'm hoping that we're starting to level out. Yes, dual enrollment saw a very small increase, but again, it's such small numbers in the summer that it did help us with a 9% increase over there. Here's why we're down in funding units, and we've seen this, this is a long-term trend that we've been watching, except when we had a lot of HERF money to give out. Students on average, not just taking out dual enrollment, are taking fewer credits as they go along. And whatever the societal impact that's going on there, it is something that we've been talking about for quite a while now. And if you look at our annual rate of change, we've seen a slight increase in the number of students. FTE bounced all over during the pandemic, but we're hoping that levels out. And where we finished within the VCCS and FTE, rate of change from summer to summer, we were down at the bottom again. You'll see a lot of the colleges starting to recover. There's not as much red in there. If you look at our head count, we were the last one there that finished better than we did last year. Our neighbors in the same MSA right across the river, Virginia Peninsula, finished in both categories below us for that. Let's move to fall. Where are we today? We have a long way to go. Yes, classes start on Monday, but as you know, we have multiple sessions that begin all semester long. Currently, we are looking good. In the last, since 2012, we have not looked this good going into the first week of classes. And I will say this takes out dual enrollment because the timing on that point in time bounces around so much. And so I focus on those non-dual enrollment students. And student headcount is looking very well, very good as well. Will we finish 8.2% up? Probably not, but we're in a good position to finish above break even. So, first time in college students, up 7.2%. Our career and technical programs, which did far better during the pandemic, resilient than college transfer programs, up again, 14%. And college transfer programs that have continually been dropping, they're currently up about 10%. Very good. But again, we see on average these students are carrying fewer credits, and that just continues what we've been seeing over the last 10 years, really. Another key metric, fall-to-fall retention, and what I consider a little bit more important is that what we call the all spring to fall and re-enrollment rate. We take all the curricular place students in the spring, remove those that completed an associate degree in the spring or a terminal certificate such as trucking, and then we say we expect them to re-enroll. Now some graduate in the summer, some transfer out, and these rates will increase as students continue to enroll, but we're looking very good in that spring to fall. This is the bigger group of students. We're looking very good, and that is what's helping to push our enrollment up over last year, is students coming back that were previously enrolled. Campus enrollments, I just want to mention that on campus, we continue to see students coming back to take classes, 24% on campus, online students up 6.9%, and online only up just a little bit. Now you might say, well, Kurt, how can you be up in on-campus and online that much, and overall you're not as much? FTE on campuses are really boosting what we're doing. Online students, there are more of them, but they're not as robust in the credit taking. The reason here is prior to the pandemic, 63% of our students mixed online and in person. A lot of it is the convenience of building schedules. During the pandemic, obviously that dropped way down, but we see it coming back. This past year it was 48%. I expect to see that going up again this year. Students mix in person and online. And a big reason is because they reside right here. In our service region, Southampton Roads, 86% of our online students live here. If you expand to the MSA, which includes the peninsula, it goes up to 93%. These are students that they may be taking online, but they're also taking in person. They're coming on campus. We're helping them. And 7% live outside of our area. How are we doing right now? These will change. This is so early, but it's nice to be up fairly well in the green. This is of Monday, and you can see how things have changed all the way to Wednesday already. They bounce around. Northern looks like they're down. They are not down. They will be bumping up into the positive. They have a timing difference with their enrollment cancellation this year from last year, and they're paying the price for trying to get away with letting everyone just stay in class whether they pay or not. When we look at head count, we're up there among the best. Workforce solutions. I have to talk about workforce solutions. Very quickly, they had a banner year. They work on a fiscal year, not semester. Students up 28%. That's a 52% increase over the last 2 years. Course registrations, 41%, 74% over the last 2 years, and contact hours look great. Thank you. And now I would like to bring to the stage Dr. Kim Bovey.
All right, good morning, everybody. All right, I'm going to try to move through this pretty quickly. Oops. Did you do it work? So I just have to tell everybody, we were supposed to have theme songs coming up. And so John Maria says to me Monday, what do you want your theme song to be? And someone suggested, don't worry, be happy. But I'm the institutional liaison. I want people to worry. So I picked the Darth Vader song, but it didn't work. So anyway, all right, so let me real quick go through. So apparently there was rebel scum that messed up the music, but we will crush them later after I update you on our 5th year interim report. Okay, so for those of you who were here last year, I wanted to let you know what our status is for our 5th year. The 5th year report, of course, is kind of in between, obviously, our 10-year reaffirmation of accreditation. It was due last September. For those of you who don't know, a 5th year report has 2 components. First component is we have to respond to 22 of the 73 full standards. And the second component is that we have to provide a QEP impact report to SAC-COC. And basically that's a report to follow up from our previous 10-year reaffirmation. And of course, our QEP was PACE. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Just so you know, that was due last September. We turned it in. We managed to get through all the difficult standards, and we got knocked on one small, easy standard, which we responded to fairly quickly, and actually we were just fully approved for our 5th year report 2 months ago. So we are check off on that one. I want to take a few minutes, though, to kind of give you a preview on some information and to give you a heads up on some things that are moving forward now that we're through the 5th year. In the QEP impact report, SAC-COC is very clear about the 4 things they want to hear. They want to know what our intended outcomes were. They want to know what changes we made to the QEP and why, because they expect changes. They want to know what our impact was. We have to provide them the data that we said that we'd provide. We can't just say, yeah, no, we didn't want to do that anymore. And finally, we have to provide them with the lessons learned from the institution. And it's this piece I want to spend a little bit of time on with you today. I'm going to go through this very quickly. I would ask, beg, encourage any of you. I have a much longer, more detailed presentation. And to be as transparent as possible, I will share that QEP impact report with anybody who wants to look at it, because there's a lot of really good information in there. But I want to focus a little bit on what we reported to SAC-COC as our lessons learned, because we are quickly marching on towards 10-year, because even though the 5th year sounds like it's halfway, it's actually more like 6-year, and I'm going to go over the timeline in a little bit too. All right, so these are the 5 lessons, very brief, that we proposed that we learned as an institution from SAC-COC. And for those of you who were here with first-year success, our first QEP 15 years ago, we never really had a significant institutional debrief on what we learned from first-year success. It is really important now that we pay attention to the lessons learned on PACE. All right, lesson number 1. We tried to do too much. We bit off more than we could chew. Our eyes were bigger than our stomach. For those of you involved, PACE, Progressive Academic and Career Experience, was enormous. It started with students in SDV. It had learning milestones at 30 credit hours, 45 credit hours, 60 credit hours. We were going to enact an e-portfolio to track all of that work. Every pathway and every program was going to have its own individualized rubric added to it. It was too much. And that was a really big problem. Number 2, when we launched the QEP task force that developed PACE in January of 2015, and if we do what we did before, that's going to be January of 2025, We spent the next 16 months and spent a huge amount of time talking about what we were going to do. What was our topic? We had town halls, we had surveys, we had meetings, we had more town halls and more surveys. But what we didn't do is figure out how we were going to make it work. And I think these two problems are related because had we spent more time on the how, we might have gone back and removed half of that hamburger. And said, you know, this is getting too big. And let me just say something about that hamburger, too. All of the ideas in the QEP were good ideas. What we didn't have was the self-discipline to say, you know, this is a good idea, but maybe we shouldn't put it in the QEP. Maybe it's not a good idea in this particular project. All right, let's move on. Number 3, because it was a huge project and because we didn't spend a lot of time figuring out how we were going to make it work, we made a very common mistake. We decided that we would budget $750,000, 9 new positions, $750,000 annually, and we said, we'll make all these new positions, we'll get more people, and they will make the project work. And we did this despite the fact that we were 3 to 4 years into declining enrollment. We were not honest with ourselves as an institution, and that caused a problem. And what happened is none of those people in that infrastructure, that financial or human infrastructure arrived, and Dr. Campbell, who ended up being the director of the QEP and is responsible for our success with SAC COC on this, had all of it kind of layered on her shoulders. And I know there's a lot of people in here that were part of this, but we can't do this. We know the budget's not great. We can't budget $750,000 for our next QEP. We're going to have to get creative and look at things differently and look at things in unique ways, and we're going to have to do it earlier because we may need to do things like look for grants, build partnerships, and that's not the kind of thing you can do in 3 or 4 months when we're talking about making big quality enhancement changes. Lesson number 4, poorly written outcomes plus a very weakly designed data gathering system means no matter how good you build a house, it's going to crumble under its own weight. Our outcomes are, and this is a technical term, what I would call mushy. We were not clear. Are they student learning? Was it environment? We didn't nail that down. And our data collection was super complex. We needed to get in front of Anthony Macera and his amazing team and really let them unpack the strengths and weaknesses of what we proposed. Because we were going to collect data from SDV when a student first moved, all the way to their final course in that 60 credit hour in 2 years, and how many of our students get a 2-year program in 2 years. Our data lag made it impossible to really sit and think about what we were doing on this. And then the last lesson, and I know I've got a huge group of faculty in here, is we need to mindfully engage the faculty a little bit better. And here, let me explain what I mean by this. I've been at this institution 20 years. I started as a faculty member, and I've been in administration now for quite a while too. We at this college are excellent at putting faculty on committees. I don't think, and I almost ask any of you to let me know if there's ever been a committee that we didn't have faculty representation on. And we're pretty good at making sure we have career technical and transfer, and we're pretty good at making sure we have campus representation. And nowadays, we're pretty good at making sure we've got, pathway representation, right? But what we don't do is ask faculty to look at these proposals and projects and ask for their analysis, the strengths and the weaknesses, from the variety of hats. And I'm going to pick on Sarah here because she's the College Faculty Senate Chair. We as an institution need to say, hey, Sarah, as the Senate Chair, take a look at this proposal and tell me what you see, strengths and weaknesses, thumbs up, thumbs down. And then in another conversation, I need to say, Sarah, as an online teacher, what's your take on this? And in another conversation, I need to ask, okay, you're a math teacher. As a math teacher, what are you seeing in this that needs to be switched? And then what about her role as a Norfolk faculty member? There are different programs at each of our campus. So as a Norfolk faculty member, what strengths and weaknesses does she do? So this is very hard. It's easy for me to sit up here and armchair quarterback, but we need to build in those conversations in a much more complex way with our faculty. All right, timeline moving forward, and I need to move through this very quickly. I'm watching, Dr. Woodhouse has a number on me. I'm okay right now. All right. So this is our timeline. We will be reaffirmed, green dot, in July of 2027. 4 years away, lots of us will be retired. It doesn't make anything for us to worry about, right? Wrong. Our on-site visit, blue dot, is in October 2026. Well, Kim, Bobby, that's still 3 years. That was a Freudian slip. 3 years away, right? So we don't need to worry about our on-site visit. And of course, yellow dot, our QEP is not due until August of 2026. So exactly 3 years from now, we will be checking the commas for the QEP, right? Look at the pink and the orange dot. The pink dot is when our compliance document. The 5th year is 22 standards. The 10-year is 73 standards. And that has to be sent to SAC-COC for the off-site team to review in February of 2026. What that means is, as we have done in the past, we will be kicking off that compliance document this February. Now, the reason this is really important is because there are some standards in our 10-year compliance document, and remember, the compliance standards are looking back. It's showing SAC-COC not moving forward, not what we're going to do, it's what we're doing now that keeps us in compliance. There is a best practice that we show for some of these standards, like program learning outcomes, general education, et cetera, that we have a complete academic year index of 2 years. In February 2026, we will not have the end of year reports for the 25-26 academic year, which means our look back, 24-25, 23-24, now. The work you do, many of you, on your programs, on your outcomes, on your planning, on the general education assessment, that work will be used as documentation in our 10-year compliance. So while we're 4 years away, we're not. So see why the don't worry, be happy didn't work for me. Are you Darth Vader? So next step, so what are we going to do to prevent some of those other issues? We're going to move very quickly, and we're going to start developing a data, a panoramic data snapshot in the next 6 to 12 months. And we're going to be going around over the next 6 to 12 months and talking to people, no decision making, just getting in front of people with those different hats, those different points of view, and begin talking about what people see, what people don't see, and where we need to find more information. We're going to give ourselves some time to say, you know, this is interesting. Have we actually talked to students about this? Maybe we need to partner with Student Affairs to do this in the next 6 months. So we can narrow in slowly on the what. Again, no decisions being made. Slowly on the what, so we can get to the how a little quicker and try to avoid some of those problems that kind of came up with PACE. I also think this gives us time to be creative and slow and thoughtful about how we're going to build something significant, as our guest speakers talked about today, but without necessarily spending a huge amount of money. And so that's what we're going to go. That's our next steps. Any questions? Good to go? Oh, okay. Now I want to bring up Beth Lundy from Human Resources to give you a little talk. Thank you guys very much.
I am a child of the 80s. I am Generation X, so that is my music. I thought that if I walked up to the Darth Vader theme music, that might not go over well. And if I chose People Are Strange, that may not go over well either. So, good morning. I am going to just jump right into updates. We're going to keep this moving very quickly. You may have heard on the news over the summer that the Commonwealth of Virginia has made changes to the hiring policy for the state workforce. Effective July 1st, we can no longer require degrees or other educational requirements for our classified and wage positions unless there's a bona fide occupational qualification for doing so. Preferred qualifications have been removed from all of our job postings, and we may include additional considerations in our postings for things such as professional certification or experience in a particular line of work. This change does not impact administrative, professional, or teaching faculty. Degrees are still required for those positions. As you know, we contracted with Gallagher to complete a comprehensive compensation review. In March, they completed a pay equity analysis designed to identify if we have pay disparities attributed to race, gender, and age, and other protected categories. We fared well on that front. We're in good shape from the pay equity standpoint. In July, they completed a market analysis and placed our positions into appropriate pay ranges. The VCCS and DHRM salary scales are very broad, very wide. There's a lot of room in there. They narrowed these ranges more in line with the market. And again, we fared well here. Gallagher has been very complimentary about the work that we have done overall with employee compensation. Now we're going to turn our attention and look at internal equity based on those market ranges to identify compression and the extent of it. Compression occurs when there is little difference in pay between employees regardless of differences in their respective knowledge, skills, and abilities. It can be found between new hires and long-term employees, and it can also be found between managers and supervisors, managers and their direct reports. Compression is something that happens over time as minimum wage increases, the market rate for starting salaries increases, or if we have inconsistent pay practices over time. Now, we have had minimum wage increases. We've had the salary scales move, so that really doesn't work in our favor from a compression standpoint, but we have been consistent in our pay practices, and so we do have that in our favor. If there are adjustments that we need to make as a result of this compression analysis, we'll run that again through pay equity to ensure that we don't create any new problems for ourselves. And then we have to consider where we are with the budget. Right now, we're kind of in limbo with the budget, and we also have to take into consideration there is still at play a 2% pay increase, and how would that factor in? So we're sort of kind of waiting for some of these things to settle. We're still on a good track timing-wise. I know you all are eagerly awaiting results, and I appreciate your patience as we complete this important work. Now, the next few slides are around the topic of supplemental retirement savings and revolve around new legislation, the Secure 2.0 Act. It passed in 2022, and it builds on recent changes to the rules around how we can save and withdraw money from retirement accounts. The federal legislation affects many aspects of plan administration and includes mandatory and optional provisions that range an effective date from now to 2027. One major change that is effective in 2023 is an increase in the required minimum distribution age from 72 to age 73, and this affects both defined benefit and defined contribution plans. Now, one of the Act's provisions may cause VRS to temporarily pause the age 50 catch-up provision for all participants of the Commonwealth of Virginia 457 plan for 2024. The catch-up provision is an amount above and beyond the normal annual deferral limit. So in 2023, this year, the normal contribution amount is $22,500. The catch-up provision for someone who is 50 or older is $7,500. So someone could contribute $30,000 to their deferred comp if you didn't need your salary to meet the rising inflation costs. Participants who have used the age 50 catch-up provision in the past and are eligible to do so will be notified directly by VRS of this change. IRS limits for 2024 have not been announced yet, so just wanted to give you all a heads up on that. A 403B plan fiduciary project is currently underway to modernize and upgrade the administration of both our 401A cash match and the 403B retirement program. This initiative provides an opportunity to review investment products for our employees, consolidate administrative oversight to unify best practices, and ultimately enhance returns and streamline access to funds for our retirees. It started last year. It's roughly a 2-year project. It involves all 23 colleges, the system office, and the Shared Services Center. We currently have 25 different plan documents, and the goal is to have one plan document for the entire system. So the VCCS has engaged the services of Cap Trust to advise and support them through this work. The project may result in changes to our administrative practices, including record keepers, investment vendors, and the types of investments that we have to choose from. Communication and updates concerning the progress of the project and changes impacting plan participants will be provided as information becomes available. We'll keep you informed. So another change that's coming up, Mission Square is our current third-party record keeper for the defined VRS contribution plans. Their contract expires in December of 2024. And VRS has named a new record keeper for this, and they will be the new record keeper beginning January 1, 2025, and that's Voya Financial. And they will oversee the defined contribution component of the hybrid retirement plan, the Commonwealth of Virginia 457 plan, and the Virginia Cash Match. In addition, Voya will become one of the provider choices for participants in the optional retirement plan for higher education. The award to Voya does not impact the relationship with TIA-CREF. TIA will continue to serve as one of the provider options under the optional retirement plan. So Mission Square provides a service to all VRS participants. And I just learned about this recently, and so I wanted to make sure that I shared this information with you. I thought if I didn't know about it, I bet a lot of people don't know about this. They provide certified financial planning services, and you don't have to participate in a VRS defined contribution plan like the 457 or the hybrid in order to take advantage of this. So go to this website, check out what they offer and what may be available to you. All right, and you may have heard, seen on the news or heard about a security breach that's occurred through a vendor called MoveIt, and a lot of our retirement vendors have been impacted by this. So Corebridge, who's formerly VALIC, TIA-CREF, and even VRS. Now, active VRS members, our information was not affected by the incident, but some retirees, beneficiaries, and survivors may have been. VRS and TIA-CREF and Corebridge, they're mailing communications to folks who have been affected by this directly. And then finally, the last update is that Alight has acquired the Reed Group. The Reed Group is our third-party administrator for the Virginia Sickness and Disability Program, and I just wanted to make you all aware, it's a new name, Alight. It's not spam mail, it's not an error. They're legitimate, and the websites and handbooks and all of the information will be updated to reflect this. So I know I covered a lot in a very short period of time. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any member of the Human Resources staff. There are still a few of us around. I I appreciate your time, and I'd like to welcome Chris Bryant, our Vice President for Institutional Advancement, to the stage.
If you get up, I'll do the Carl. Oh, just barely in the nick of time. All right, thank you guys so much. Are you happy? Up in the box seats, are you happy? Down here on the floor, are you happy? All right. That is mo better. Thank you. We've got a lot to cover in just a short time. Before I start anything, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being TCC proud. You heard us start this last year at this very moment. We are absolutely TCC proud, internally and externally. I told you last year that not only do we, about 300 people in this room, represent what's the best of Tidewater Community College, we do what we do because our students are the best. We are all committed to that. We are TCC proud, and what we've started internally has now started to creep externally. And so we'll talk more about that as well, but it has never been a secret or a light that we want to hide under a bushel basket. Oh no, we need for TCC proud to be recognized throughout our region, our community. So in TCC proud, last year we talked about proud of my purpose. This year we're extending TCC proud to talk about we belong. And I almost chose We Belong as my walk-up song, but I couldn't get over happy. I almost also chose Go On, Take the Money and Run, but I didn't want to choose that one either. So with that being said, TCC Proud this year is about We Belong. Thanks to Dr. K and all of our marketing communications team, because we want to produce the message this year in the next 12 months that lets our students, our faculty, our staff, our parents, our industry leaders, all our partners, all of our board members, that we do indeed belong. Everyone has a place at Tidewater Community College. And so we're excited to share that. And we're going to be pushing people all year long to let us know how they can communicate with us. So with our students, our faculty, staff, and community, when I'm at the gas station or in the grocery store, I always run into people because I'm always wearing some kind of TCC swag, and I'll encourage you to start doing that as well, whether it's your name badge or the tie. After today, maybe even the socks, right? I'll show you another picture of those in a second. But you need to be wearing that swag out in the community, because when people see you, you can give them one of these little stickers, and on the back of the sticker there's a QR code that they can go and put their name, email address, and phone number and get messages from us on a regular basis, inviting them to come be a part of what we do with student engagements, with volunteer engagements, with all the things that we do. There's a reason and now not just the how and the what. We're going to give people the why. Come hang out with our students so you can be engaged with us. So the foundation really focuses intently on three things with our student engagement and our fundraising, our philanthropy. Does anybody know what the word philanthropy means? Yeah? For the love of all humankind. So it really made me happy last week when a group of us heard from our brand new chancellor. After all of the data, after all the facts, after all the strategies, at the very end, he said what I've heard Dr. Constance say so many times. He said, we do it because of love. I'll say that again. Sometimes we're afraid to say that word. We do it because we love it. Philanthropy, when people give for any reason, they give because of love for all humankind. So with that being said, we don't want transactional relationships. We want transformational relationships. We want to give our students the benefit of the next step on their journey. And so it starts with scholarships and access. It goes to retention through emergency funds. What are all those barriers that students come across that keep them from being a good student? Transportation, childcare, food insecurity. Whatever those barriers are, the foundation wants to raise funds to wipe those worries away when we can. Scholarships and access is always number one. Retention and keeping a student a good student is number two. And then we want to grow our college. We're getting ready to open up a new building here in about a month, which is awesome. Where are all the VADC staff at? Thank you, Dr. Woodhouse. Yeah, it's a month and the clock is ticking, so people got stuff to do. We'll all get a chance to see that, but we certainly want to raise those $10 and $12 million at a time, but not at the expense of scholarships and access and retention and emergency funds. We almost slipped into that this year, and we did dip our toe in that water. We want to be better at taking care of our students' needs on a regular basis. So sharing this, we're going to do great storytelling, fundraising and support, and alumni partnerships. We have almost 200,000 alumni in this region. Very few colleges, institutions, other organizations have that kind of reach. We certainly have it. One time a year, I ask you to, well, with all intensive purposes, put your money where your mouth is. You do that on a regular basis. What we're asking you to consider is one time a year, giving a gift to the Educational Foundation for our students. Last year, I blurred the lines a little bit, and our chancellor has given me the chance to blur the lines even some more. We were measuring on the July 1st to June 30th spectrum. We're going to go on the calendar year now, which is the foundation's year. You can see here that in 21, we had 72 donors. $19 was the overall average gift, and we raised about $24,000. Here's reality for last year. If you look at just the year, we raised more dollars, and we had 95 total staff donors, which is great. So more donors and more dollars than the year before. That's great. That is exceptional, and thank you for those who participated. This year, this is what that looked like so far this year. So again, we're kind of in the middle of the school year. We currently have 75 donors for about $13,000. So we've got some work to do, because where do we want to be? We want to have a big goal. We want to have 111 donors for just at $35,000. And I'm going to warn you right now, that's a stretch goal. It's much more important to have the number of donors than the number of dollars, and you'll never hear a fundraiser say that again. It's much more important to have the number of donors than the number of dollars, because it just means that our community is starting to care. And so with that being said, we're going to invite you to be a part of that. At this moment, you're all getting a little card that talks about TCC Proud. You can give your gift to the foundation many ways: a one-time gift, a check, a credit card. Go online and do it. The easiest way for me, the easiest way for many of you, is to do that through payroll deduction, and you can give $1 a payroll, $5 a payroll, whatever works for you and your family. Please consider a gift for our students, for their benefit, for access, for emergency funds, and for growth of new opportunities through capital projects. With that being said, anybody that does participate in this will indeed get a pair of these socks, right? I've been wearing these socks since Monday because I've had to do this presentation 4 times already. So don't get too close to me, but you will get a pair of TCC socks to wear. We'll have those in the back corner. You can turn your little card in and get a pair of socks. I don't even have enough for the number of people in this room. So a great problem to have is not to have enough socks when we walk out of here, right? Some of you walking out with no socks. I hope you have socks on though. With that being said, it truly is, all fun and all jest aside, our foundation is growing. We are growing in all ways to provide more opportunities for our students. This is our goal this year, and this is a BHAG. This is a big, hairy, audacious goal. Help us get there. More messages, more videos, more things to come in the several weeks ahead, because between now and September 12th, we're going to be in Norfolk again. We did this last year, but only a few of you came and hung out. I want to let you know it's fun, it's okay, and you can come hang out and have hot dogs and hamburgers and a beer. Come and be with us because you're going to enjoy yourself. Dr. Constant threw out the first pitch, and you should have seen the dance she did right after she threw the pitch. It was amazing. We have not shown the video on that, I promise, but it was a great dance at the end of that strike that she threw. And of course, we had students sing the national anthem. It was an awesome night. We're going to do that again on September 12th, and we want you to be there. So from the foundation, from myself, the board, please share your gifts. If you can, make a gift to the foundation. We would appreciate it. 100% of your gift is designated directly to where you want it to go and directly to a student. It goes directly to them for whatever you need. So we're really happy that you would consider this, and thank you for those who are already in that 75 people pool that are donors. Come get your socks in just a second. For all the rest, come get those at the end when you turn in your card. Now, I think we're at a cool moment, because our boss gets to come back up, and she has walk-up music too. And I got to tell you, you know what it is. You got to know what it is, because it's perfect. So you all know our vision statement for the college, right? Right? It's to be the community's first choice in education, opportunity, partnership, and innovation, right? With that being said, I'm so competitive, you always lose me after the first choice. I had to remember those other 4 words over a year and a half now. It's taken a long time because you always lose me at the first choice. We want to win. She is highly competitive. I know that when you see her all decked out and elegant and graceful and class and humility, you don't realize how competitive she is. She is a fighter. She's competitive. And so with that being said, you don't have to settle for second best, because she is simply the best. Tina Turner. We love her and miss her. Does it fit in there?
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chris. I didn't know what was coming, and I certainly didn't know what was coming out of Chris's mouth. But thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and thanks to all of the vice presidents who have given updates this morning. I would encourage all of you to visit our website, because all of the PowerPoints and presentations should be located on the website. So, and there are others from the vice president for finances, and then certainly student affairs and workforce. So there are others that need, and as well as academic affairs, Michelle, needs to be seen. Where am I? Okay. Now it's time to celebrate, but Chris has already gotten us in that mood to celebrate. So let's move now to our special recognitions and awards. So on each campus and at district administration, employees who have met 5 to 40 years milestones in their careers here at TCC have received formal recognition. And this morning, we want to recognize and thank these honorees for their contributions to the college. The names of all of the honorees can be found in your programs. So could all those employees who are celebrating a milestone, 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25 years of service, if you're here, please stand. Thank you all for your many years of service to Tidewater Community College, and please know that you are sincerely appreciated. Next, we will honor 13 employees who have been with TCC or the Commonwealth of Virginia for 30, 35, and 40 years. And I will ask Dr. Woodhouse if you would please join me on stage here. These individuals will come up to be recognized.
First, whoa, that didn't work out. First, we have Miss Wendy Bowie, Counselor, Student Services at the Virginia Beach campus, celebrating 30 years. Wendy, if you're here, if you could please come forward, and let's give her a round of applause. And these are all student services people, so they're in there getting those students in. Next, we have Ms. Sonia Fitchett, Financial Services at the Virginia Beach campus, celebrating 30 years. Next, from the business office at the Virginia Beach campus is Ms. Teresa LeClaire, Assistant Cashier Supervisor. Next, we have Professor of English at the Virginia Beach campus, Ms. Michelle Maritz, celebrating 30 years. Michelle, are you here? Next, here she is. Come on down, get your pen. Come on up. You got to get your pen, Novella. That's right. Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Rokina Thomas, Financial Services Specialist at the Norfolk campus. If you're here, come on down. 30 years. And we have Mr. Roosevelt Gray, Custodial Manager at the Virginia Beach campus, celebrating 30 years. Everybody's working hard, and 30 years, Mr. John Williams, Associate Professor of English at the Virginia Beach campus, celebrating 30 years. And now we have 35 years of service. From the Virginia Beach campus, we have Mr. Peter Borders, Systems Engineer for Academic Computing. If you're here, please come on down. Are you here? Miss Wendy Burris, Cashier and Office Supervisor with the business office at the Virginia Beach campus. Are you here? Come on down. Here we go. We got somebody here. Congratulations. We're going to get you all to come down this way. And next, coming up while they take their picture is my friend and your friend to everybody, Mr. Michael Kirby, 35 years. Mr. Kirby, I saw you here. Come on down. Thank you so much to everyone who's received these awards for all they have done to support our students here at Tidewater Community College. Mr. Michael Kirby. I'm always. And now we will move towards our employees who are celebrating 40 years of service. 40 years of service. Who do you think gets that remarkable award? Dun, 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 dun. I can tell you he works in OIS. We all go to him. The deans love him because they need all the list from this man. Mr. Ken Ballard, Director of Application Development and Support with Programming and Systems Development District. If Ken is here, is he here? He had to stay and produce more lists for the deans so we can get to those students. So he's not able to be here with us today. We also have another person celebrating 40 years, and I've had the pleasure of working with Mr. Albert Brunell, HVAC Manager for Maintenance at Portsmouth. Buddy Brunell, if you're here, come on down. That's right. And our last honoree this morning is Mr. Willie Peterson, 40 years, voice services technician with telecommunications at the Norfolk campus. If you are here, come on down. Kurt has them all in the office. He says they got to work. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Constant. Mr. Roosevelt Underwood, I understand that there's a typo in the program, and you have 30 years, and we're going to correct it, and we're going to celebrate you today. Mr. Underwood, please come forward. I'm waiting for you. Dr. Constant's waiting for you. He's upstairs. Are you coming? Come on down. Come on, Woody. He may take a minute, and when he gets down here, we're going to celebrate him. We will continue with our recognitions, and as he comes down, we'll recognize him because he has to come from all the way down. So, but at this time, I will also be turning it back over to Dr. Constant.
Is he coming down? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll move forward until you see him. Does anyone see him? All right. There you go. Come on down. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you're a favorite. Yes. So at this time, I would like to recognize faculty and staff members who have been promoted. Again, their names are located in our program. Would all present who have been promoted please stand? Anyone promoted this year, please stand. I want to extend a congratulations to all of you and to thank you for taking on greater responsibilities here at TCC. Next, we would like to recognize new employees to TCC who have been with the college since the fall of 2020, as well as TCC employees who have been recently rehired or who have taken on full-time positions. New employees, welcome to TCC, and congratulations to those who have been rehired or have achieved full-time status. Would all of you please stand and be recognized? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Each year, the college recognizes a member of the TCC community whose life and service exemplify the teachings and example of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., advocating a nonviolent approach to solving society's problems, fostering positive race relations in our community, striving to remove the social, political, and economic barriers of inequality, and possessing a realistic optimism for a better future for all. The recipient of the 2023 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. College Distinguished Service Award is Mr. Chuck Thomas. Chuck is a fitness, recreation, and special events coordinator at the Portsmouth campus. And Chuck, if you are present, if you are in this room, please come up and be recognized. Okay, well, we will certainly make sure he is fully aware of how much we think of him and the work that he does here at TCC. Every few years, the college recognizes a TCC faculty member who presents the most creative, compelling, and potentially beneficial project involving technology to improve learning. The fellowship is funded by a 2005 gift to the TCC Educational Foundation from Frank Batten Sr. of Virginia Beach. The recipient of the 2023 to 2025 Batten Fellowship for Technological Innovation and Leadership is Dr. Emily Wilson, Professor of Biology at the Virginia Beach campus. Dr. Wilson, there you are. Please stand again and be recognized. We really acknowledge your leadership. Thank you so much. Next, we will have emeritus appointments. Emeritus status acknowledges truly outstanding and significant contributions over the at least 10 years by TCC faculty and staff who have previously retired. Emeritus appointments are conferred by our college board. If you are present, please rise as I call your names. Denise Bizard, Associate Professor of Respiratory Therapy at the Virginia Beach campus. Paul Gordy, Associate Professor of Engineering at the Virginia Beach campus. Peter Shaw, Professor of Business Management and Administration at the Norfolk campus. Ruth Shoemate, Assistant Professor and Reference Library at District Administration. And Dr. Michael Summers, Special Assistant to the Vice President for Academic Affairs. Thank you all for all that you have given to TCC. We all know these people. We recognize the great work that they have done for many years at the college. So even in their absence, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to move forward with our governance leadership and recognize those who have served in capacities and leadership roles. Governance leadership is given each year to members of the college community who have made exemplary contributions to shared governance during the past academic year by leading one of the governance committees. If you are present today, I'm going to ask you to quickly come forward as your name is called, receive your award, and we'll take a group picture. First, we have the Administrative Association, which is Dr. Misty Line. If you are here, Dr. Line, please come forward. Classified Assembly is Gia Lawrence. Classified Assembly, Ms. Gia Lawrence. Curriculum Committee is led by Tom Sigmund, and I don't think he's here because I know we have to get the VADC open, but I know we want to also recognize Tom Sigmund for his leadership with the Curriculum Committee. Come on up, Ms. Lawrence. Distance Learning and Technology Committee, Andrea Pierman. Annie Pierman, are you here? You're all the way up there. You can come on down and get your award. Anya Pierman. We also have Faculty Professional Development Committee, Renee Hossein Aling. If you could come forward. Our college-wide Faculty Senate leader was Dr. Tiffany Sledge for the last 2 years, and we'd like to ask you to come forward and thank you for your contributions, Dr. Sledge. Our Faculty Senate leader for the Chesapeake campus was Elizabeth Briggs. If you are here, please come forward. Our Faculty Senate leader for the Norfolk campus was Sarah DeCalagero. And our Faculty Senate leader for the Portsmouth campus, who is now a dean, Dean Deborah Dart. If you could come on down. And Faculty Senate leader for the Virginia Beach campus, Maureen Cahill. Dr. Cahill, you can come on down. And if we could give all of these campus Faculty Senate leaders a huge round of applause. I want to also bring forward our General Education Governance Committee, Laura Tedrow. Laura, if you're here, please come on down. Global and Intercultural Learning Committee, Sandra Bryan, who I had the pleasure of talking to this morning. Come on down. Instruction Committee, Michael Blankenship and Stacy Laney. You're going to get your token, and I'll go right over there, and we're going to take one big group picture. Internal Relations Committee, Novella Briggs. You can't go be in the picture. he gets his award. And then PAPC is Sarah DeCalagero, who is already there. Now you all can smile beautifully. These are all of the leaders of the governance committees, and we want to thank them for their support for what they do for shared governance here at Tidewater Community College. I'm sorry, two more. Dr. Thomas Chapman, come on down. Student Success. And Anthony Fonts, Workforce. These are all of our leaders now of our governance committees. And the bella will give you your awards. I want y'all to smile pretty because you might be on Facebook or somewhere. Beautiful smiles. Thank you so much. Our college leaders here for our governance. Let's give them another round of applause. Again, we thank you for your service to the college and to our students. Now we'd like to recognize TCC employees who have distinguished themselves in unique ways. These employees were nominated and selected by their peers for their exemplary contributions to Tidewater Community College's mission. First of all, we have our Support Staff Employee of the Year. These awards recognize a full-time classified staff member and wage employee who advanced the college's mission and goals, as well as demonstrated effective leadership in support of the college's vision and core values. First, I want to recognize my friend, my comrade, who I worked very closely with at the Portsmouth campus, Mr. Tommy Armstrong. If you could please come forward. He is the facilities manager and trade services and the classified employee of the year. Tommy was recognized by his college's classified association for his innovative leadership as a facilities manager for trade services on the Virginia Beach campus. He and his team oversee the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and other systems needs of the campus. They also respond to all after-hours emergencies, prepare for storms, and clean up after any weather event. Tommy has been with Tidewater Community College since 1994 and worked in facilities management on every campus. Can we please salute Mr. Tommy Armstrong? We next want to recognize Miss Penny Chase. Penny, if you could come on down. Trades technician on the Virginia Beach campus, and she is our wage employee of the year, Miss Penny Chase. Penny has been with the college since 2017 and works diligently to maintain the grounds at the Virginia Beach campus, ensuring trash, litter removal, as well as completing other largely outdoor tasks in the good and the bad weather. We thank you so much, Ms. Chase, and we also thank you again, Tommy Armstrong. Now we will move forward with our Faculty Senate Awards. These awards recognize full-time and adjunct teaching faculty members who have demonstrated excellence in teaching, as well as full-time teaching or a professional faculty member who has provided exceptional service to students, the college, and of course, the community. Nominations are provided by the students, faculty, peers, deans, supervisors, and community members. First, we will present the Professor of the Year. And I do not think she's here, but she might surprise me because, again, we're opening the VADC. She's here! Let's give a huge welcome to Miss Heather Boone, our Professor of the Year. She's a professor of graphic design at the Norfolk campus, and she is our Professor of the Year. Professor Boone was chosen by the Faculty Senate as being honored for her dedication to student success and engagement. She teaches typography, publication design, interaction design, and systems design in online, in-person, and hybrid formats. Professor Boone also serves as a faculty advisor for the 340 Art and Design annual publication. If you know that design and you know that publication, that is all Heather Boone and her brilliance. She's been teaching at the college since 2008. Congratulations, Heather. Next is our Outstanding Faculty Award in Excellence for Adjunct Faculty, Ms. Allison Napier. If you're here, please come forward. She's an adjunct professor of art history at the Norfolk campus. She's coming forward. She's an accomplished teacher of online courses. Professor Napier created open educational resources versions of 4 art courses, giving students the ability to use free online resources instead of textbooks. Professor Napier is currently at work on her doctoral degree in American Studies and Material Culture from the College of William and Mary. Congratulations. Next, we have our Faculty Special Achievement Award, and this award is presented to Judy Gill, Professor of Mathematics at the Norfolk campus, who is receiving this special award. Please come forward. With the drones. Professor Gill is being honored for her development of the Drone Pilot Program at Tidewater Community College. Initial classes began in fall of 2022, and the full program is slated to be up and running in 2024. Students in the program learn how to plan missions, fly drones, as well as gain the knowledge to obtain federal licensing, which will give them entry into this new and rapidly expanding industry. I want to personally thank Judy Gill for her work in bringing this forward. We had a great summer camp this year, and this is true leadership and true commitment. Thank you so much. The Faculty Senate also gives professional recognition to adjunct faculty in specific areas of teaching, college and community service, and scholarly creative engagement. Please stand as I call your name and head to the right of the stage where you will receive your certificate and take a group picture. If you are here, I'm going to ask that you please come forward quickly. Marissa Angel, Nate Avery, Caroline Blackman, Vi Calhoun, Lindsay Caputo, Judy Couchman, Jeff DeCastilla, Sarah DePaulo Lloyd, Amanda Jerez, Kimberly McInnes, Tia Nicole McMillan, Courtney Mozo, Allison Napier, Sarah Norvell, Nancy Pettigrew, Simone Thomas, James Williams, and Caroline Wilson. If you are present, we please ask that you come forward. Let's give them a huge round of applause, and we congratulate you and thank you for your service. We have a few more coming. You know, the college depends on our adjunct teaching, and we're very thankful for what they do to support teaching and learning. So let's give them another round of applause. Our next group focuses on college and community service, and this is a new group, and this is Jeff Acosta. If you're here, Jeff, please come forward. Caroline Blackman, if you're here, come forward. Kimberly McInnes, Tia Nicole McMillan, Allison Napier, Daryl Perkinson, Martha Springstead, and James Williams. Congratulations to those for college and community service. We have one more coming. Next is for scholarly and creative engagement. Again, these are the different categories of awards. And this award goes to Jeffrey Heiser and Allison Napier again. If you're here, Allison, you can stay and take another picture. And you're going to go right over here to get your awards. Is Jeff Heiser here? Well, Allison, you get a picture with the president by yourself. Smile pretty. Congratulations again. Thank you. Thank you very much. The Faculty Senate also gives specific awards to full-time faculty who have distinguished themselves through teaching achievement, teaching leadership, community impact, and scholarly and creative engagement. Please stand as I call your names, and if you're here, you'll come forward. For teaching achievement, Dr. Michael Bells, Norfolk Campus. Chef D, Deanna Friedrich. I see Michael Bells over there. Come on over. Don't try to hide. Shirley Greenway, Portsmouth Campus, Nursing. Katina Harris Carter, Biology, Portsmouth Campus. And Kathy Merritt, Nursing, Portsmouth Campus. If you could please come forward. We want to give these faculty a wonderful round of applause. Next is for teaching, and these awards, and you will pick up these awards probably at the conclusion. And that will go to Dr. Bronson Hayes, Dr. Derek Laws, and Dr. Geraldine Woodbury Wright from the Portsmouth campus. If you all could please come down. I see Dr. Hayes. Is that Dr. Wright? And let's give them a round of applause. And then for leadership, full-time faculty in leadership, Elaine Beal, Portsmouth campus. Robin Brevard, Virginia Beach campus. Elizabeth Briggs, Chesapeake campus. Casey Clements, Virginia Beach campus. Sarah DeCalagero, Norfolk campus. David French, Chesapeake campus. Laura Fuller, Virginia Beach campus. Tom Gary, Virginia Beach campus. Richard Gill, Norfolk campus. Eric Hayes, Chesapeake campus. David Kirikoff, Chesapeake campus. Kimberly Lee, Portsmouth campus. That's right. You can clap. Sarah Lewis, Virginia Beach campus. Kimberly Perez, Virginia Beach campus. Cecilia Petretto, the Norfolk campus. Shannon Washington, Portsmouth campus. And Dr. Geraldine Woodbury Wright. With that group of wonderful faculty, please come down. I want to thank our faculty leaders. I want to thank all of our faculty for here, as this is our opportunity to recognize you and to thank you for the great work that you are doing to support teaching and learning and to support our students at Tidewater Community College. Let's give them a huge round of applause. All right, smile pretty. Thank you. And next we have community impact, and we want to recognize the following faculty, if they can quickly come down. Dr. Kevin Brady, Chesapeake campus. Amy Burns, Norfolk campus. Katina Harris Carter, Portsmouth campus. Kimberly Lee, Portsmouth campus. Richard McCammon, Norfolk campus. Kathy Merritt, again, Portsmouth campus. Annette Newborn, Virginia Beach campus. Kimberly Perez, Virginia Beach campus. Dr. Tiffany Sledge, Portsmouth campus. And Dr. Ivory Warren, Norfolk campus. Could we please recognize these faculty for their community impact and thank them for what they're doing as well. Now, all of you all have awards that you're going to receive, and we will be giving you all these awards at the conclusion. So you all will come back, and Novella and Terry and Naima will assist you in getting these awards. Congratulations to you all. Our last group is for scholarly and creative engagement. And that award will go to Dr. Leah Hagedorn, Norfolk Campus, Renee Hosangaline, Norfolk Campus, Dr. Kimberly Lee, Portsmouth Campus, Ian Springer Woods, Chesapeake, Dr. Gabriella Toletti, Norfolk Campus, and Rebecca Vandahar from the Portsmouth Campus. Would you please come forward to receive your awards? So all of these awards is supposed to be about great energy and fun. I feel you deflating, so I'm going to ask you to, let's pump it up. Let's give all of these faculty these wonderful awards, and let's recognize them for their contributions. Tidewater Community College Faculty Senate gives a lot of awards. They also give professional recognition to colleagues who have demonstrated professional excellence in college and community service, institutional responsibility, scholarly and creative engagement, and teaching. Their names are listed in your program, and I believe here on the screen. We want to recognize them, and we want to thank one and all of the faculty for the great and continual work that you do to support teaching and learning and our students' success here at Tidewater Community College. Congratulations. At this time, I am happy to turn the mic back over to Dr. Constant.
Thank you, Dr. Woodhouse. Let's give all of our awardees another round of applause. And I know this was a little cumbersome this morning, but it is important that we recognize people for the great work that you do. So I just want to say thank you all so much for all that you do to make our students successful here at TCC. So again, you deserve the time, you deserve the award. So thank you very much. I do want to, again, thank our board members for being here today. It's always a pleasure to have you at our college events. This shows your level of support. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you, Lynn, for your leadership. Thank you, Jerome, for your continual support of TCC. And again, I want to thank Dr. Sugar for the excellent presentation, talk, advice, innovation, leadership that you shared with us today. We all appreciate your words. Thank you so much. This is a great way for us to kick off our 2023 school year. So thank you so much for being here today. And we do know that Dr. Sugar will stick around for Q&A with faculty members and staff, and I know that all of you are eager to stay and engage him in further conversation. At this time, I would ask if the cabinet members would come up to the stage. Now let me hear the music you were playing for everybody coming up. Did you have anything? Oh, okay. I'm wondering who's in charge of this music. I don't know what to expect at this point. This is always the time of our convocation when I get a little nervous because I never know what's playing behind me, but I think it's going to be good. So we want to toast this year as we normally do, and I invite everyone, the entire college community, to please join in giving a toast to a new school year that will be filled with academic achievement, community involvement, positivity, innovation, leadership, success. Here's to a great new year. Let us raise our glasses and have a toast. Thank you all. Thank you for a great year.
Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful convocation. We want to continue celebrating. We have lunch. I also want to remind everybody you receive T-shirts. You have FAFSA T-shirts and you have TCC T-shirts. The first 2 days of school, let's be TCC proud. Let's show our TCC energy and wear those T-shirts. Faculty and staff, we will convene back in here, grab your lunch, and we will come and have a quick dialogue with Dr. Shugart as you grab your lunches. Thank you so very much for a wonderful, wonderful day.